Hey nerds, welcome to this week's episode of the Brief Nerdity podcast. I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm Trent. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
I'm very good. Also joining us this week, we have another special guest, a good friend of ours, Ross. How's it going?
Good. It's nice to be a special guest. Makes it extra special.
You are an
Like it.
extra special guest.
Yep, extra special. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Ross.
Um, I'm a PC gamer. The only console I ever owned was an Xbox that I managed to. My dad actually won it in a raffle. So I've done almost exclusively PC gaming, starting all the way back with I guess Age of Empires was really the first game that I put serious playtime into on PC, and all the way up to today. I'm 30 years old. I'm married to a wonderful woman who is sitting next to me playing The Witcher 3 right now.
Nice.
So life is good.
Nice. It's funny. Like I've been a console gamer my whole life up until just about 4 years ago or so, but I was also hardcore into Age of Empires. Like playing online in the MSN gaming zone or whatever they called it back then. Did you play there?
No, I was terrible at it.
I was not terrible. They actually said newbie, inter, and pert for a noob, someone who's intermediate, and a pert was short for expert. Because late '90s, early 2000s leak speak.
Oh,
I think
and
you mean 1337 speak, sir.
Yeah.
oh
And so
gosh.
I'm proud to qualify myself as an inter there. So because there were no like matchmaking or anything like that, obviously, and so you just enter a group and people will be like, "What's your skill level?" And if everyone was inter,
The reason that didn't work out a lot for me, and then I never really got into it, was because my parents already felt that I played too many video games, and the concept of tying up the phone line at the same time was a non-starter. That was going to take my available game time from limited to none if I was killing the phone line.
see, I was the lucky one. My dad had a separate business line that he obviously didn't use outside of normal business hours. So I literally owned like a 50-foot phone line cable that I would plug into his office and run it over to my computer and play Age of Empires online. But since we as a family had AOL and only one user could be logged in at a time, I would use Net Zero on that computer when I wanted to play Age of Empires. It was annoying because it would have a constantly always on top banner ad that even when the game was playing. So online gaming in the 90s.
You couldn't just like pull out the 30 extra AOL discs from the mail and use those?
No, because, well, maybe, but probably could have, but they only allowed me to have 100 minutes each, so, and sometimes those matches lasted longer than that.
That's true.
So I've never played Age of Empires before.
Wow.
Have you never played the original one, or you've never played any of them?
I've never played any of them.
You should pick up the HD2 remaster. I mean, it got a new DLC within the past month for a game that was released before you could drive a car.
It's fantastic. I mean, this is coming from someone who's not even a big RTS fan, but it is by far my favorite RTS.
I liked 1 and 2. I felt that 3 kind of missed the mark, which I think is why 2 has gotten the HD remaster and the additional DLCs, and 3
Yeah,
has no love.
I've always just been a Civ fan. I've played Civ since Civ 2.
See, I've never played Civ, so
Got really into Civ 5, obviously. But yeah, I didn't do much online gaming back in the day either, except for when MUDs were a thing for a little bit for me, and then eventually EverQuest and the old Star Wars MMO.
yeah, Age of Empires was pretty much it for me until Halo 2. But anywho, let's go ahead and start off where we left off last week with the huge cliffhanger. So, Trent, tell us what you thought of the Assassin's Creed movie.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. My microphone decided to commit suicide at the end of our podcast last week, so we had to cut it short. So yeah, I saw. It's been probably about a week and a half ago now. I saw the Assassin's Creed movie, and it was bad. It was really bad, and it made me really, really sad because I was really excited about it.
And folks, this is coming from someone who thought the Amazing Spider-Man movies were really, really good.
They were really.
He even liked the Warcraft movie.
I did.
Boy.
It was good. I mean, it wasn't like cinematic masterpiece or anything.
Tag
but
all that hate mail to @Trent.
It was entertaining. I'll take any audience interaction that they want to give us. I don't even care if it's negative. So yeah, I mean the fight scenes obviously were incredible. The choreography was great. The cinematography in most parts were really cool. But just the story was an even worse version of the actual original game. Um, and I'm not a huge fan. Like I watched my ex-boyfriend play through Assassin's Creed 3 or 4. Which one has the Native American guy with the
That's
hatchet? 3. I watched him play through those, so I know the story, but I've just never played them. And the video game does a better job of telling the story, and I didn't think it was that good of a story to begin with. And the movie doesn't even.
3 is debatably the worst game.
No, I saw him play through 1 through 3.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
All the in betweens.
Gotcha.
So it was basically a retelling of the original, original Assassin's Creed story, except worse. So I was sad, and just like some of the pacing was just really off and slow, and I felt kind of bad as I went by myself and I was sitting next to this like group of like teenage girls. It was kind of awkward. They kept like looking over at me, and at one point I fell asleep and started snoring. I think because like I
No
woke
way.
up at some point and they were like
You really
staring.
fell
Like,
asleep?
yeah, it was like some parts of it were really really
Oh, man.
boring.
They like totally went home and told their friends, like, we were watching the Assassin's Creed movie and this guy fell asleep next to us.
No, like seriously,
Fassbender is so hot, you guys.
when I woke up and looked over, like, because I kind of like startled myself out of sleep, uh, they were like staring daggers at me, and I'm like, sorry.
That might be the
felt
point when you're like, if this
terrible.
movie sucks, I'm leaving now.
I probably should have, but I hadn't paid for my meal yet.
So why do you feel they have such a hard time making good video game movies? Because it seems like every time they make a video game movie, we're really hopeful that it's going to, like, man, maybe this will be the one they get it right, and then it's like, it always, well, not always, but the vast majority of the times it ends in utter failure. And like, there's a lot of people who feel that the video game movies actually set back the video game industry and its acceptance as like something that's not, too nerdy to do, like making it where it's like okay to play video games on the same level that it's okay to play sports as an interest. There are people that actually feel that the movies are so bad that they hurt that. Like, why do you think that it's continually striking out?
Well, I agree that definitely hurts it because, I think that this movie will be a black eye to the Assassin's Creed brand, so to speak. I don't know if it will financially affect them in the long run, but that's a call that they had to make when they decided to release it, that if it's perceived poorly by audiences, that it's going to be part of Assassin's Creed. Everyone's going to remember how bad that movie was. I mean, how many Prince of Persia games have you seen since the Prince of Persia movie? It hasn't really been a thing since around that time.
Yeah, I don't know why there seems to be such an obstacle, because obviously so many of these games have really rich, compelling storylines that could easily and have been made into great novels and manga and comics and all this other stuff, but like for some reason it can't make the jump to movies. Is there a successful like video game TV series you
No.
guys can think of?
Mega Man had a mildly successful afternoon TV series run.
That's true.
Yeah.
I remember that animated
Super
show.
Mario
That was
Brothers
fun.
Super Show and the really, really badly animated CG Donkey Kong Country TV show. I don't really know if I would count those though, but I would kill for a Mass Effect Netflix series.
There's a lot of Netflix series I would kill for.
Pretty much.
I don't know that a Mass Effect Netflix series. It'd have to be a completely new one because there's too much. Like, why is Tali in this series? She died in the second game.
Yeah, they'd either have to make a canon
Spoilers.
version of it,
I'm just kidding.
or
I think there's
do
plenty of timeline you could mess with. Either show Earth during the first Contact Wars, or just any of that kind of stuff would be interesting. Could have an Expanse feel to it.
Yeah, but I believe it's definitely possible to make a good video game movie, because I mean, let's be real here. Disney took a 2-minute theme park ride and made a multi-billion-dollar franchise out of it, and it's the movies are debatably good movies. You know, I don't think many people would say that, you know, all of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies are bad movies, but you know, that just goes to show you could take a simple concept and turn it into something really, really great. I just don't think that the people who've been put in charge of video game movies have found that magic formula to create something
When
truly special from the source material.
I think there's a couple of mistakes that they often make. One is that they don't actually want to move the franchise anywhere in the movie. Like they want all the actual new content in the franchise to be game based, and so you end up getting like rehashed story, but then the story doesn't really work with the context. Like I feel like it would honestly be easier to make a video game television show than it would to make a movie because I mean you think of how long it takes you to play through a video game, and I know there's some that you can run through really quick, but like to actually give the development and like the backstory and everything that's going on in a movie, a lot of times like there's not enough effort there. And so you end up with really, really cool action sequences, and the CGI is amazing. But then it's like, well, that was cool. That was, nice looking CGI. And also, by the way, I saw it in the trailer because you show all the good parts in the trailer.
Yeah.
It's like I'm dumbfounded by how the Warcraft movie wasn't like the best movie ever. You have Blizzard that makes, in my opinion, some of the best cinematics of any studio. Are some of the Warcraft, the WoW cinematics, and even the older like Warcraft 3 back in the day, those cinematics. And they have amazing storytelling. They have people on staff that can tell a good story. They know how to drag out suspense and twist like from quest lines and stuff. It's like granted I don't have the skills to do it, so I'm not like bagging on anyone for it, but it's like I don't understand how you can have those skills so well and then when it becomes cinematic just fail to execute so hard. I don't know if it's because it gets sent to an outside studio where the people are there to make a movie and don't care about the characters and the story or what, but like I was sure that the Warcraft movie would be good. And then
Well,
I mean and it wasn't terrible, or depending on who you ask, like Trent likes it. But it was not a like, critical success where they're like, "Oh my gosh, when are we going to do another movie like Second Coming of video game movies?" Like it didn't have that effect.
well, as someone who's not familiar with the Warcraft lore at all, I actually thought it was pretty good. I mean, or not bad. I mean, I would say I would say I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like in my top movies of the year or anything like that. But I walked away overall enjoying it. I felt its biggest weakness was its lack of an ending, so to speak. I mean, I know they can't really help it because they kind of wanted to follow the Warcraft 1 storyline, but I felt an extreme lack of closure at the end of it. And, you know, that's probably a symptom of they thought they were going to make sequel after sequel and basically flesh out the entire Warcraft storyline in movie form, but don't know if that's going to happen anymore. And so now that story just going to remain unfinished for someone like me.
Yeah, I gotta wonder if part of it is, and I don't want to like, like, oh, video game nerds feeling bad for ourselves, but I gotta wonder how seriously these projects are taken by the people who make them. Like, do they all just be like, oh, it's a video game movie, like we can do whatever the hell we want because video game nerds will like anything, and then they just, crap all over it.
I feel like the feeling of a built-in audience already, like there's already people that like this, there's already people that buy the games. I
Yeah.
think that actually hurts them in a lot of cases. It's the same thing with some of the early superhero movies where they're like, well, these superhero fans will come out and see anything, and we had some really bad movies before we got some really good movies.
Yeah, we're the most hypercritical of the franchises we already know and love. So
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. There's a Need for Speed adaptation coming out soon, and I think that might be one of the first. I don't know. We say this about all of them, but it looks promising, and I wonder if it's easier to make a movie that doesn't really have like off of a video game that doesn't really have a baked in story, because then you can't anger the hardcore fans for changing the story, and you can't like alienate people who don't know who the f everybody is. Have you guys seen the preview for that one?
if I'm not mistaken, that movie came out in 2014.
Did it?
So apparently not very remarkable.
What the heck am I thinking of then? I saw something just the other day about it.
Yeah, it stars Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad.
I am thinking of something completely different. Ignore me.
Okay.
Never
Are you
mind.
thinking of the new Fate of the Furious movie?
No,
Because that looks good.
it
It
looks
does look
good, but that's
amazing.
not a video game movie. I don't know.
I was gonna say if you want a Need for Speed movie, it's called the Fast and the Furious series, and it just has different characters.
Just ignore me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I thought you're going somewhere pretty fun with that, but I don't know. But just because video games can't make good movies as of yet, it doesn't mean that video games can't really influence movies as we know them. In fact, the Guardians of the Galaxy director, let's see, I believe it was Tim Gunn. James Gunn,
right.
sorry, James Gunn.
Tim Gunn.
Yeah, he revealed today that Mass Effect was one of the major influences to the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And so I thought that was really, really interesting and awesome. I mean, he said, amongst other things, such as Flash Gordon, Farscape, and Star Wars, but Mass Effect was a big inspiration for him. So, and of course, that created a fantastic movie in Guardians of the Galaxy. So,
it definitely has some of those kind of visuals that you get from Mass Effect, like when they arrive at Nowhere, which is like the dead celestial being where they're harvesting, like it's all that stuff. Like
cool
the shot where you come up on it definitely has like a Mass Effect vibe of it, of like those huge like skyboxes that were just gorgeous. Like playing through Mass Effect 3, there were multiple times that I died because I was looking at stuff. I'm like, oh, I got shot. Crap. I was looking at that planet over there, like through a scope, because it looks really cool. And when you look through the scope, you can see more stuff. And yeah.
It just makes me sad now that I'm finally playing Mass Effect on PC Master Race that so many of the cutscenes are rendered videos in like 720p. It makes me sad.
Yeah, but on the flip side, that lets people who are playing it on their Nokia N-Gage still get a really nice experience for the videos.
N-Gage. The taco. I forgot about that thing.
Comrade Dog.
All right, well, we also, last week we talked about our most anticipated movies of 2017, but let's go ahead and dive into some of our most anticipated games of 2017. Who could guess what my most anticipated game is?
Let me guess. Mario Run for Android.
Yes, Super Mario Run. Yeah.
It's the next best thing. Revolutionize mobile gaming forever.
I'm thinking it might be Mass Effect.
You are absolutely correct. Mass Effect now has a date, March 21st, 2016. People were really worried because they said, it was originally going to come out in November of 2016, but it got delayed to, March of 2017. And but they didn't really say March originally. They were just saying spring, and so that could be anywhere from March 21st all the way through mid-June. But March 21st it is.
Do you think it was delayed because it needed more work, or do you think it was delayed to come into a less busy season so that it was less contested? Because there have been a number of games in the past couple of years that had kind of November, end of the year kind of releases, and when that got to be a crowded time, they're like, actually, we're going to release in spring for extra polish. Remember that XCOM did that, and like there was some stuff where some like people who knew employees maybe on Reddit said that really the game was ready and they just moved it because they didn't want to compete with the busy launch window.
Honestly, I think it's both. Personally, EA had Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1 in the fall.
Which I don't understand that decision. Why would you compete against yourself?
That's a whole nother ball game there for Titanfall.
I know, right?
But so like it was already a very, very crowded season. And if you notice, besides like the N7 day and the Game Awards, there wasn't really any marketing for Mass Effect. And they've said now that the new year is here, they're going to start a big marketing blitz, mainly in February, up to the launch of the game. But
yeah, I mean, I've seen in interviews they're still refining animations. They're still refining, and testing systems and stuff like that. I don't think it's completely ready yet.
Yeah, I know that there's been a little bit of outcry within the past couple of weeks, at least, of some of the gameplay they'd shown. Apparently, one of the characters had the same face throughout all of it, like the same facial expression, and people thought it was really stupid. And they're like, "We're gonna go back and work on the facial expression."
Yeah, it was a femwriter in the Game Awards video. Like she just arms a Turian, but like she has the same like grin on her face the whole time she does it, and it looks really, really, really off-putting. And so
it makes her seem kind of creepy. She's got this like shiz grin the entire time.
And several people on NeoGAF or Reddit have come forward and be like, yeah, well, those fine-tuning facial animations literally do like come last in this kind of development cycle. And people have come out who are working the game come out and say, yep, we are definitely working on that. So So
One
I
thing
think,
that's
yeah, it was delayed to make room for Battlefield and not get overshadowed by all the fall games. And I think it needs all the polish it could possibly get, because BioWare has a lot to make up for in most gamers' minds due to the ending of Mass Effect 3. Even though I'm not included in one of those, they have to wow everybody with this game if the franchise is going to have a strong future, in my opinion.
So one thing that I always think is interesting and it'd be fun to discuss for a minute is how right are the people that comment on games? It's one of those things like, is a game the game that has the most people that love it? Is it the best game? Because I know that Trent really enjoyed Civ 6 this past year and continues to enjoy it.
Yes.
And Steam Spy had put out some data that they've extrapolated from numbers, so it's not hard stuff, but it's statistical modeling and sampling and whatnot. And they said that as far as actual game sales through the store, not DLC, not in-game purchases, that stuff, that Civ 6 was the highest-selling game on Steam last year. However, going through my Steam pages this week, just kind of looking at stuff, seeing what's on sale, I noticed that it rocks a 58% recent approval rating, which puts it solidly in the mixed category, which generally means a game that's not that good. I know that Trent disagrees with that rating. He and I have kind of mentioned that before, and he thought that was a load of bull. But like, how important are, first off, ratings from like outlets from PC Gamer, Kotaku, Polygon, and then ratings of other people on Steam. Like, how much do those influence you when you're looking to get a game, knowing how crazy they can swing?
Personally, for me, they influence me a lot for when I purchase. So I've said on here many times that I'm kind of a budget gamer. I tend to wait 3 to 5, 6 months after a game comes out to play it, unless it's one I need to play day one, like Mass Effect. And if it's a game where I'm not really, it takes a lot for the game to be like that. But if it's anywhere on the fence, where like it could be a great game, could not be a great game, I always wait for reviews. Always. I check a few different review sites and kind of get a consensus of what people think, and that it's either okay, I definitely need to buy this game right now and play it at launch, or within the first week. But if reviews are mediocre, like they're getting 8s ish in the range of that, I'm like, okay, I'll wait till a $20-$30 Steam sale or something like that matter. But it's rare that I make it so I don't ever play a game because of reviews, because I know that they're subjective, and we've talked about on our earlier podcast, reviews of Doom were initially not that great. And that's one thing that stopped me from buying it day one. And even though I loved everything I saw, the gameplay videos looked fantastic, but reviews came out and they said it wasn't that great. It was getting a lot of 7.5s to 8.5s or so. So I held off. I bought it for $30, and then it was my game of the year last year. Spoiler
Yeah, and I
alert.
mean, we can tell that reviews are subjective because we looked at your game of the year last year and it didn't have The Witcher 3 at the top slot. So obviously, reviews can be wrong all the time.
Yeah. It was good though. Witcher 3 was really good.
Yeah, personally, I look at IGN typically to see, just to kind of get a general idea, especially if I haven't been closely following the game. I also take a lot into account of whether or not a game, when it opens up its NDA and how close to launch it does that, as I think that kind of speaks to what kind of press they're trying to spin. And then on top of that, I don't know. If I'm interested in it, I can usually tell just by kind of looking at it. There's been obviously some, uh, you know, exceptions to that, but for the most part, I use it to get an idea, but it usually doesn't sway me too much, unless the only reviews that usually sway me are the overwhelmingly positive ones. Like if my game was kind of like and I see that it has like a 99% approval rating, I'm like, okay, I'll try it.
The place where I feel like it gets into dangerous territory is like there's a question of like, are the things that are the most well received by fans truly what makes the best game? Because I think a lot of times, like, there are aspects that fans are like, man, it would be better if whatever, and you fill in the blank. But that if those things actually were changed, it would take away from the game as a whole.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a really big problem that's coming up with early access games, where the games are still in development while the developers are making like core decisions about what the game is going to be. I think that we're starting to get a lot of games that are watered down because they have to follow the crowd favorite. Because if they don't do that, their recent reviews are going to go down. It's going to hurt their product a lot. And I think that that's actually an interesting kind of problem for early access games that they're going to have to find a way to overcome if early access is going to continue to be such a success. Because a lot of times the things that players are like, oh, I'm busting my head against this wall in the game, a lot of times they're just bad things, but sometimes they can actually be things that make the game a lot better, especially in, survival games or, games that are designed to have a higher difficulty level. I mean, imagine having Dark Souls 3 created by committee. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah. Well, and then also just like Steam reviews especially are completely it's up or down. Do you like it or do you not like it? And I don't like that kind of binary yes and no, especially since you can go back and change it. What was that survival game you were telling me about where people put in like dozens and dozens of hours, loved it, and then suddenly they got bored with it and then they downvoted it.
I think that was Rust, and there was a big controversy about it because the
Yeah.
developer told them, "I'm sorry, if you put in like 1,000+ games and hours into my game and don't like it anymore, feel free to stop playing."
Right, but if you liked it for that first 900 hours, then maybe you should still leave it a positive review. I mean, I probably wouldn't want to go back and play Civ 5 anymore because I've put hundreds of hours into it, but I still liked it. I don't know. It's weird, and that's the whole thing about it is that not only is it completely binary, it's so subjective. Like what makes a good game to me, to you, to anyone else is so completely different. Like to me, it's did I enjoy it? Do I feel like I got my money's worth? And did I have a pleasant overall time? And if that's a yes, then I give it a thumbs up.
See, that's something funny because I view them very much as like, do I feel accomplished at the end of it? Which a lot of times Trent and I play a lot of games together, but a lot of times the ones I want to play or the difficulty settings I want to play on them in survival games, Trent's like, nope, have fun. And so I end up alone in my survival games because I enjoy a good brutal game. Better Than Wolves mod for Minecraft is one of my very favorite mods for any game, and it just makes the game punishing, we'll say.
So you're a masochist gamer, is what you're saying.
Have you played
Somewhat,
Dark
I
Souls?
guess. I feel like
Yeah, have you played Dark Souls?
I haven't played any of the Souls games. They're actually something I'm looking to get into maybe this year.
Because I heard that if you hate yourself, then you should play Dark Souls.
I mean, in all seriousness, I haven't played the main Souls trilogy, but having played Demon Souls and Bloodborne, they are phenomenal games. And if you're that kind of gamer who loves just a good challenge, I mean, I wouldn't say like they're super hard games. Is that you just have to train yourself to be patient in those games and take it, I guess, one step at a time. And if you lose, then you have to pick yourself back up and figure out how to make yourself better to overcome the obstacle, which
Right.
I really like about them.
And see, that's what I like both about the Minecraft mod that I mentioned, and also like I don't like games where it's like you die and you're like, oh, there's nothing I could have done about that. That's stupid. But like, I love a game where it introduces you to the rules. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You know the things to avoid, and then every time you die, you can trace it to, oh, I did this thing I shouldn't have done, and then it's like, well, yeah, I took a risk I shouldn't have taken. Like I love those type of games where
Yeah.
you know exactly what keeps you safe and what doesn't, and you just want to push just a little bit because it's one of the things there, and then you get punished hard.
That
Yeah,
personifies the Souls games.
I like that there's.
It was
Oh,
my
sorry,
fault.
go ahead.
Sorry, Trent. Go ahead.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say every time I died, I knew it was my fault, and sometimes that made me even more frustrated because I was frustrated. I'm like, dang it! You knew you shouldn't have tried to go for that one last hit. We both had no health left, and rather than just backing up and strategically hitting him once, you tried to dive in there and hit him again, but then he hit you first, and now you're dead.
Yeah, I mean, I like variety in mine. Like, uh, XCOM and Civ, you can like unless you're playing like an Iron Man or something, you can go back and fix your mistakes. Uh, and then there's games like Just Cause 3, which I'm in right now, that dying really doesn't matter at all, and you just come right back and keep blowing things up, and it's just crazy fun.
It's kind of hard to die because they give you so much health.
That too. Although at some point, I don't remember, I don't know exactly where it happened or why, but at some point in Just Cause 3, the AI for the enemies, like as soon as you like put a toe over the wrong line, like 50 people are just like suddenly shooting at you with perfect aim, and I'm like, what the hell?
By the
So
way, the multiplayer mod for that came out this week. We may have to give that a shot.
we should absolutely do that.
but kind of just not really a side note, but kind of on the same topic. While you guys were talking there, I went and basically looked at a quick list of all the biggest games coming out in 2017, and there were
2017.
only 3 games that are day one purchases for me. 1 being Mass Effect, obviously. 2 being Ukulele, because I already backed that on Kickstarter, and so I'll just play
Yeah.
that day
That's
one.
the Banjo-Kazooie remaking?
Yep. And number 3 is going to be the South Park Fractured Butthole game.
I don't think you paused at the right point when you said that title.
The Fractured Butthole. There you go.
The Fractured Butthole.
Just the first game was just so good, especially for a long time South Park fan like myself, and just I know this one's going to be even better because the first one had a lot of, I guess, turmoil behind the scenes, because Matt Stone and Trey Parker had never really made a video game before, didn't really know what to expect when going into it, and then it ended up being a lot tougher, in their own words, than they thought. And then also, it was originally going to be developed by THQ, but then they went under, and then the game got the rights for the game got purchased by Ubisoft, and so it's kind of a turmoil. I got a little bit of turmoil, but the game ended up being still one of the best games that year, and one of the funniest games I've ever played, and perfect for any South Park fan. And fun-esque Paper Mario-ish combat. But this one, they're up in the RPG mechanics and making the combat a little bit more in depth. It's more of a I don't know what you would call, like, I guess, tactics kind of battle style, because there's like a square grid, and the enemies can go anywhere on the grid and stuff like that. And instead of being fantasy themed, it's superhero themed this time. I don't know, just I know it's going to be an amazing game. So
Yeah.
let's do it here in the first
So
excited for that.
nice. Aside from the obvious Mass Effect one, I don't have a ton of games that I'm currently excited for. Maybe it's because I just haven't been paying attention to enough of them. But one that I saw recently, and it first got my attention during the Game Awards, was Dauntless. I don't know if you've heard of that
I
or
remember
not.
that one. No.
It's so the developers is a studio called Phoenix Labs, but they're veterans. Some of their people are veterans of BioWare and Riot, and they're making kind of a Monster Hunters, action RPG co-op game, and it sounds kind of fun, like Gauntlet Legends almost. And so that looks really fun. And I'm a big fan of online multiplayer cooperative games, so I'm excited about that one a lot.
You don't say.
I know, right?
Anything else you're excited about, Ross?
Obviously Mass Effect is the big thing. I'm really excited at some point to play Dishonored 2. It's I needed a little bit of a hardware upgrade before I got into that, so I didn't pick it up at launch, and I got some hardware upgrade for Christmas, and now I'm just waiting for a good sale to get it. I don't feel like dropping full price for it.
Wish you would have told me. I picked up for $20 a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah, I was, money's tight after Christmas. I'll hit it at some point. Two games that I'm really looking forward to this year, both of which are not big name games. One is Hello Neighbor.
Yes, that one looks good.
It looks really good. It's the developer is Dynamic Pixels, and the publisher for it is Tiny Build, who they've had a good track record of delivering on quality games. It looks really interesting. It's basically the concept is that you're sneaking into your neighbor's house and trying to steal stuff. But the stuff you're trying to steal is randomly like generated where it is in the house, and then the neighbor has a learning AI to where like he'll try to learn the tactics that you're using to infiltrate the house, and catch you. And so it seems really cool. There's some gameplay out for it on YouTube. I came across some and didn't watch it because I didn't really want to spoil the game before I got into it. That's a little frustrating for me when a game's not available for purchase, and yet YouTubers are playing it, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't want to see this. If I can't go buy the game and play it myself, I don't want to see you playing it. And I know other people feel differently, and so I have the option not to watch it. The other big game that I'm really looking forward to, Hello Neighbor comes out. Its set release date is summer of 2017, so sometime when it's hot. The other game that I'm looking at that I'm really excited about that does not even have a release date announced yet is called Heat Signature. You fly this tiny little ship around, and flying the ship is not the main part of the game, but you take missions and then you dock with bigger ships and have to carry out the missions on those bigger ships. And And so like sometimes it's assassinate a person, sometimes it steals something, sometimes it's, delete a file, or there's all different types of missions you can get. They have different difficulty ratings that have different payouts. But it's somewhat stealth, because sometimes you have to get in, you have to sneak past things and disable enemies, and some of them even have a no alarms clause in the contract. But it's also sometimes there's fighting, and it's very, like, the visual of it looks a lot like FTL. Like, it's not really like super graphically beautiful, but it looks like a lot of fun. From I watched one of the developer updates for it, and they were demoing like some of the missions that they'd put in and stuff, and so I'm really excited for that. I like kind of indie games and early access games more than the average person a lot of times. So
What's that like secret agent stealth game, like top down, that you really like?
Invisible Ink.
Yeah, so is it kind of like that almost, or not so much?
Not so much, because that one is turn based. You do stuff, they do stuff. This one is real time, even though you can pause it and give actions at any point.
Oh, okay.
And in that one, not being detected is the most crucial thing. In this one, there's times that you have to shoot your way through, but there's also all these cool sci-fi tools, and so like you can get, there's like, in the demo I was watching, there's 3 different types of teleporters that this guy had. One was a snake teleporter, and so anywhere that he could snake the thing to, he could teleport to, even if like it was around a corner all the way across the ship, as long as there were no blocking doors or whatever. And then another one was like the trader teleporter, and so like you can teleport to anywhere there's a person, and it switches the position with you and them. And then there was one called the visitor teleporter, that you could teleport anywhere on the whole ship, but you were only there for a second. So for like one of his missions, he had to assassinate someone. So he teleported into the room that they were in, shot him with a gun, and then teleported back to the entrance, where he started, and left, and like succeeded the mission. And he said, obviously, you have to unlock these things and, earn them. Like, they're not just always given to you, or it would kill a lot of the mission types. But he's like, that's just like, the teleporter is just one of the sets of tools that you have to complete the mission. So I'm actually really excited about it. It's I mean, other than Mass Effect, obviously, because that's a huge, massive universe, Heat Signature is probably the game I'm the most excited about. That's kind of on my radar.
Very nice. I forgot about Zelda, so there's Zelda as well. That's another one. Hopefully on Nintendo Switch on launch day, but we'll find out in a couple days on the January 12th press event that Nintendo's holding.
Speaking of Nintendo, did you hear the news about their what's it called? Their mini classic console they put out?
That it was hacked?
Yeah, you can load pretty much any ROM on it now.
Yep. There's space constraints, but other than that, yep.
Yeah, but I mean, I heard that someone had fit as many as 84 games on it. So I mean, like, I'm both excited and discouraged by that, because on one hand, it's like, that's really cool. Like, I might want to get one of those just to do it, because it'd be super handy to take around, because it's small form factor. I mean, even though you could make something smaller out of a Raspberry Pi that would play the same games. But on the other hand, it's like, oh, I really hope this doesn't like prevent them from wanting to develop these things, because I don't know how much money they made off of that product. If that was one of those things where they were planning on adding in more games down the road, or just selling a new version with another 30 games on it. Like,
well, the thing's not available anywhere, so I don't know, like, if they did a like forced scarcity, or if they just weren't planning on selling very many. But I don't know, I've heard a lot of annoying things about it that make me not want to buy one.
I'm personally very frustrated, because I've been trying to get one for my nephews since it launched, to no avail.
I don't know, I feel like anyone that has some decent tech knowledge, even at $30, it's kind of a questionable price point, because
it's 60 actually.
What is it?
It's 60 actually.
Oh wow. Okay. So especially at 60, I mean, you can make a homebrewed solution that'll support the exact same, classic controllers and stuff. I mean, obviously there's some work there, and you get into the question of, how do you feel about putting ROMs on thing? But I think most of those, at least for that system, are old enough that they actually are outside of their protection window.
And one of them, I mean, the main reason for me was for my nephews, who are like 10 years old, 8 years old, and 5 years old. And so I'm sure Raspberry Pi is simple enough, but for them just to have a simple, easy, push the button, turn on, select the game they want to play, and be good to go. And then also just the cool form factor.
It does look pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, except that the cords are super short, and like, so you have to like trail this thing from your TV, and then like the box sits like 3 feet from you.
I mean, sitting close to the TV was like a classic part of that NES experience. They're just recreating that for the next generation.
Except TVs were like 21 inches back then.
Right.
Yeah.
You sat close to the TV because that's the only way you could see anything. Yeah, I remember
Mom came in and said, "You're gonna ruin your eyes. Back up."
I remember my siblings and I used to try to play 4-player Mario Kart 64 on like this tiny little like box TV that we had in our room at the time. That was Talk about sitting
Like
super close to this
240p.
TV.
240p,
Yeah,
then 4-player split screen, and on a 21-inch screen.
back before I knew what pixels were.
Yeah.
So I found out where my brain fart from earlier came out. I was reading an article the other day. I found it again. They're making a Gran Turismo movie that they compared to Need for Speed. So that's where my wires got crossed there.
A Gran Turismo movie sounds 10 times less interesting than a Need for Speed movie.
Whatever, man. It's super exciting.
If you want a good Gran Turismo movie, I recommend Fate of the Furious.
No, a good Gran Turismo movie would be like Days of Thunder or something like that.
Or what's that Will Ferrell one?
Oh God.
So speaking of Will
Talladega
Ferrell,
Nights.
Yeah, that's what it was.
have you? So he's supposed to be doing a really big video game movie, and a lot of people were really upset about it, kind of for the reasons we were talking about before. That
Will
that
Ferrell?
is he not who's doing the video game movie? I thought.
What video game movie?
We'll have to come back to this. I'll have to Google it real quick. I don't know off the top of my head. He was cast in something, and people were upset that it was going to be a joke. We'll come back to this.
Huh. Yeah, go look it up and let me know. So let's see. What else are we excited about for this year? I mean, to be honest, I don't really look forward on games a ton, especially more than like 4 or 5 months out, because so many things get delayed or changed. Until they announce the next Dragon Age game, I'm probably not going to be following anything terribly closely after Mass Effect.
All right, real quick. Will Ferrell is to star in an upcoming gaming movie where he will play a professional gamer in a yet untitled film. And so there's a lot of worry that he's going to lampoon professional gaming at a time when it actually has it's starting to get some notoriety. I mean, like I was able to watch people play Overwatch on my television. Like that was weird.
On your television?
And on in the downstairs television.
In
the
color?
Not just in color, but in living color. And the sound was in surround sound.
Oh man.
Or stereo were available.
That is the future.
No, but he just like competitive gaming is trying really hard to get a foothold as like a legitimate entertainment avenue.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that are worried that he's going to set it back, akin to his character in Talladega Nights, that it's just going to be a mockery of it.
So do we know anything about the story? Because I could see myself getting behind like a movie where they kind of poke fun at like professional gaming of the 80s and 90s. But if they're making fun of like today's gaming, like professional gaming efforts, I'd probably be a little bit less
seems like it's
excited.
contemporarily set
Yeah.
from the information that's out.
Well, personally for me, and I could be completely off base here, but I'm pretty sure it is going to be that method. But for those who are going to take his poking fun at it seriously, are the same type of people who would take poking fun at NASCAR or poking fun of ice skating in those movies that he's done seriously. That those people wouldn't have been professional gaming watchers or people who took professional gaming seriously to begin with. Whereas the rest of us who could watch and just enjoy Will Ferrell being silly playing video games, but still tune into our Overwatch and in living color and be just fine with it and move on with our lives. So I feel that the number of people that the movie will negatively impact professional gaming will be tiny, I guess, is what I would say.
So speaking of like crowd-funded games, early access, and 2017 games all coming together, are we done about the movie thing? Because this is a subject change, and I know that sometimes
I'm
we
good.
do this before
Okay.
we're done. But we do have what could be the biggest game launch of all time this year, and that is the official quote-unquote launch of Star Citizen.
Definitely the most expensive game launch of all time.
I will believe it when I see it, personally.
Have you seen the footage for like the first person stuff that they've got already?
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of stuff, but I don't know. I feel that the game has become too bloated for its own good. And I feel that because they keep taking donations, that they're just going to try to make it more and more and more, and it's eventually going to collapse in on itself.
They recently switched engine, didn't they? Their newest release thing switched from the engine they were on to the new Amazon engine that they put out.
They did. And do you know part of the reason why? Did you hear about the whole thing with the CryEngine and that company?
Yeah, I heard about that.
I did not. Why they didn't like it, or
No, tell them about what that company. You probably know it better than I do.
Crytek, they closed the majority of their offices. I think they just have.
Yeah, they're like folding
Small
it on
ones.
themselves basically.
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of your engine companies might be in that spot because there are so many of them now where they're use our engine, then just give us a percentage later on. Like,
Well, that's what Unreal 4 is doing, and that's why it's doing so well. Is it 4? Right? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That and Unity. I believe Unity started it. I might be mistaken, but I believe Unity Engine started, and then Unreal developed that model, and then Crytek a little bit later was like, me too, but it's kind of too late at that point.
Yeah.
Because how many games use CryEngine? Literally for me, it's only Crysis and the new, well, not new, it's old now, but the game Rise on Xbox 360.
Right.
Use
Well, and
CryEngine.
they were saddling a lot of their notoriety on Star Citizen. So them jumping off definitely did not help. But Star Citizen also did something really cool. Is that a lot of these developers that have been laid off by Crytek have been picked up by the Star Citizen studio, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and don't take my comments on Star Citizen as me like believing it's gonna fail. I mean, I guess I kind of
it's him
suspect
hedging.
that's
He's
gonna
hedging.
that's falling in on itself. But I just like I need this game to be out and for it to be in real people's hands and getting reviews to make sure it's a good game. Because I mean, we all know what happened with No Man's Sky. That was supposed to be the second coming of Jeebus as far
The
as
second
games go.
coming of marketing.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, it's one of the best marketing campaigns of all time.
pretty much. And so, I mean, like I said, that's just that inner skeptic in me that I need this game to be out before I could start getting an opinion on it, especially because a lot of the game's followers are very, very cult like in its following of the game, even more than like my cultish following of Mass Effect. But
Like, there was an article on PC Gamer about a guy that had spent like $80,000 on the game.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so like I just can't like right now I just don't feel like I trust any source right now as far as people saying what they think of the game. So I want the game to be out and so I could analyze the finished and final product for itself, or at least have
It's a
professional
great game. We
reviewers
want you
of
to play it, and then when you're done, if you didn't like it, please have some Kool-Aid.
it.
Well, and see, goes back to an
almond
interesting
flavored.
conversation we were having earlier about like early access and crowdfunding. I don't know the Star Citizen is going to have a quote unquote "we are now out," you know, release date. And if they do, it's going to be more like Overwatch, when it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we're officially live now, and everyone's looking around, and be like, was it that or Hearthstone? Well, one of the two Blizzard games.
It was
that was,
Hearthstone. Overwatch did a hard reset before launch.
that's right. But everyone on Hearthstone was like, oh yeah, okay, I guess we're in launch now. We've been playing for like 3 months, but whatever.
Yeah, so I guess I'll put that date on when places like IGN and other places start actually reviewing the game and people
Yeah.
consider it a complete experience. That's
Yeah.
will still grow, but it's
Well, I
complete
think
right
they're
now.
being really smart about it, and that they're developing it because their scope was so big, and then got bigger and bigger and bigger with stretch goals, stretching into the millions of fundraising dollars. They're coming out with like modules that will eventually lock together and have overlapping play, and so I think that's a really good idea, and I think it's going to. I think they're. I mean, I'm not good at predicting things, so don't put any money on this. But I think they could be the next Minecraft that has a successful, no drama, so much money making, uh, you know, crowd-funded game, and I hope it does really well.
I just don't think it has the mass appeal that Minecraft does. I think it's a very niche audience that
No.
is going for the space sim gamer, which is a big audience, but nothing
No.
Well,
Minecraft
but
levels.
the thing
No.
about their game though is that you could play that entire game and never play the space sim. You could only play it
Right.
in first person as the shock trooper of your buddy's ships. Like that's one of the things. It's hard to say whether people will or will not be brought into it because the scope is so wide, and we don't know how they're going to interact. Like if it has a really cool like space marine combat stuff, which is some of the tech that they've been putting out recently and demoing and getting feedback on, like I mean it could have such cross appeal that you could get on with friends that like love first person shooters, that love space sims, that love uh, resource management games, and like you could all find a hook in that game to do it together. And then whichever slots you don't have friends for, you they just let a okay AI take over for it that's decent but not as good as your friends, so you get a boost when you play with your friends.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Speaking of, I was gonna say, speaking of other space games that have got a lot going on, I know that Trent was really excited earlier in this week that aliens had been found in Elite Dangerous.
Oh my gosh. Have you read this article?
Nope.
So cool. Like, I really don't have much of an interest to actually play this game because I tried it once and I was terrible at it.
I reinstalled it after reading the article, and another one of our friends has picked it up and has been playing it today.
I know, and he likes it. I was like, damn it, I'm gonna get pulled into this
You
game.
already own it. Reinstall it. It's not like you have anything going on until March.
I do too. There's so many indie games to play. We're gonna play Ark at least 2 more times before then. I'm just kidding. Well, maybe I'm not kidding.
He's not.
But yeah. So for those who don't have Google, Elite Dangerous is like Eve Online, but space flight simulator version. Like you literally are in the cockpit of a ship. You control, like you actually have to learn how to pilot your ship. Like you can't just be like, go dock there, and it turns and maneuvers for you. Like you have to, learn about pitch and yaw and roll and all those things and actually learn how to pilot your ship. But the universe itself is vast and complex, and there's player-driven economy and factions that war with each other and bounty hunters and raiders that try to steal your stuff. So super in-depth universe, super interesting, and a lot of comparisons are drawn between it and Eve. And something huge just happened in recently to set it apart from those other games, and that a ship was ripped out of hyperspace, which is supposed to be impossible, and was scanned by this giant alien ship thing, and then they took off again. And so there's like all the speculation, like what's going to happen, like who are these aliens, like are they hostile, and it's completely sending like shockwaves through the politics of the game, and it's just reading about it. Like I could read articles about it all day long. It's fascinating.
Well, the thing that's interesting, I guess, is in some of the past Elite Dangerous games, there was a race of aliens that were hostile towards humans and were always very threatening. And because there's not been, I don't want to say there's not been a lot, but because a lot of what's been going on has been exploration and infighting among people, some actual pretty serious factions have formed in the game. And so there is an opportunity to see how it goes from having factions that hate each other in game and that are kill on sight, transitioning to a potential threat to all of mankind. Like, and that aspect of the game right now is super exciting because it's not just like, oh, what are the developers going to put in, what are the mechanics going to be. It's going to be, in our human interaction, are we going to be able to come together and face a common enemy, or are we going to continue tearing ourselves apart because of our differences? And I think that, obviously there's always the potential that aliens could show up tomorrow in Earth orbit, or on our satellites or whatever. Like it's interesting to see that modeled
Yeah, it's a
in a game.
phenomenal social experiment, and I think that it's super cool.
So you're going to reinstall it tonight, right?
Yeah, I'll probably reinstall it.
You are weak. When you
Yeah.
guys gonna play?
Your brain is not weak.
The Division is dead.
Ryan, I have some bad news. I was short on space on my SSD, so I actually uninstalled the Division to install Elite Dangerous.
No.
Oh, I'll just play it by myself.
I have room on I have a whole 100 gigs left on my solid state drive.
Oh man, that other game we were talking about, the Star Citizen. A while back, he gave an interview and he said that if you had a 250 gigabyte SSD, it probably wouldn't be big enough to hold the game and the Windows operating system.
Gross.
It's a good thing mine's a 512. I'll probably have a terabyte by then anyway. So
I just installed a terabyte in mine over the holidays.
You'll probably have
Nice.
like a bigger than a terabyte, like whatever's beyond that, like I can't. I know these terms, I just can't think of it right now. You'll have
Petabyte?
1,000. Yeah, you have a petabyte by the time Star Citizen comes out.
Whatever.
All right, well, let's switch gears over to television shows. Trent, what have you been watching?
I am in season 4 of Gilmore Girls.
Journey
No,
through Gilmore Girls continues.
I will finish eventually, but no. So you and I are almost done with Clone Wars, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I'm watching it for the first time. You're watching it with me. So we're going to be getting into Rebels here soon, and we're trying to finish before Star Wars Celebration in April. I think we're on track to do that pretty easily. So that's been really fun. And if anyone hasn't seen Clone Wars, barrel through the early stuff to get to the later seasons, because seasons 4 through 6 are really, really good.
They are really, really good. I mean, top notch Star Wars. I think I asked
yeah.
you, and you said like, "Yeah, this is better than the prequels."
Yeah, there are
Trent
arcs.
loves the prequels. You know, like he's not a prequel hater like a lot of people. Trent loves the prequels. I love the
Whatever.
prequels
He's
as
a
well.
prequel hater. We talked about it this week. He had some hate for the prequels.
I don't hate them. I dislike them more than the originals, but I think that's just an indefensible
Yeah.
or unassailable position. Other random shows that are kind of more nerdy related. I've been watching on Freeform because I like low budget, underacted, slightly underacted TV shows. So Freeform used to be.
Admit to this.
I haven't admitted this for a long time. I've been watching the CW since I was a teenager, back when it was the WB. But no, so Freeform used to be ABC Family, and I'm watching Shadowhunters season 2, and then they just started a new show called The Beyond or The Beyond. I don't remember if it has a the or not, but it's actually somewhat interesting. And they dropped, so they're airing it live on their channel every week, but then they also dropped the entire season on Hulu and on their app online. And so I've seen the first 3 or 4 episodes. It's about this kid who is out in the forest when he's like a teenager and sees this light and then collapses, and he's in a coma for like 12 years or something. And then he wakes up, and when he wakes up, he finds out that he has these powers, that he can do things that he hasn't learned how to control them yet. But now there's people chasing after him, and there's this government conspiracy thing, and it's actually kind of interesting. I thought that it would be kind of dumb, but it's actually holding my interest.
Yeah, sounds interesting. What about you, Ross?
Well, see, I don't mind the shows that Trent watches, except when Trent gets behind in the shows that we both watch, and then can't talk to me about the best show, which is The Blacklist.
It is a pretty good show.
Hands down, best show, at least on network television, if not all of television right now. I know that there's some love for a few Game of Thrones, some of those other shows, but I mean definitely the best show on broadcast television. Has just started back up. I watched an episode this past week.
I'll have to check it out. That's pretty high praise.
It is. Yeah,
it is really, really good.
The writing for it is just so phenomenal. I really love it.
And the acting is top notch.
Yeah, you got Ultron playing the lead, so that's the big thing that I'm kind of watching right now. I've been watching a lot of the shows that I watched are on break. All the CW stuff is on break currently.
You're watching Sherlock right now.
I am watching Sherlock. I watched. I was very relieved to see the second episode of this season was a lot better than the first episode. The first episode was kind of a flop. There was a lot of outcry about it online. I know that Trent hasn't seen it yet, so I'm not going to spoiler it for him. But it was. I did not like the first episode and was worried that perhaps we had gone off in a bad direction.
Jumped the shark.
Yeah. The second episode of this season is not, again, the best episode. Even probably, it's still not great. It's not as good as it has been, but it definitely was a step back in that right direction. And I'm hopeful they keep going with it. I mean, it's anytime you have something that's been so phenomenally popular, it's always a challenge to continue to rise to that level and keep going. And I hope that they that they have success in doing that. I don't want to see it go badly. So yeah, I'm actually I've been thinking about watching the Clone Wars. I'm gonna do the abbreviated version, which is where you watch about 6 shows from each season instead of all of them. Basically, it cuts out the filler, gives you kind of the main arcs. And I'm thinking maybe I'll be caught up in time to do Rebels with you guys, depending on what your timetable for that is exactly.
I'll probably start in Rebels in like 2 weeks or
It
less.
may actually be sooner than that because we've only got 5 episodes left of this current season, I think.
Yep,
And
and
that's
then
the
we're
last
gonna watch.
season.
My
Revenge of
classes
the
don't
Sith.
start till Thursday this week. I can watch a bunch of Clone Wars. I'll watch that. I got a new monitor for Christmas, so I finally have dual monitors. So I'll watch that on one screen while playing Elite Dangerous on the other.
There you go.
Kind of speaking of the CW shows, everything got renewed this week. All the superhero shows and Supernatural.
Nice.
Yep, my grandfather was telling me a story about, he came home from World War II and his first date with the missus, they went out to a diner and got a hamburger, and then after the date they came home and cuddled on the couch and watched season 1 of Supernatural.
God, it's so terrible.
I was perhaps the biggest Supernatural fan. Like when it first came out, I loved Supernatural back in a time before like when they pitched Supernatural initially, it wasn't
You have
intended
to put on your hipster hat before you before you say stuff like that.
it wasn't intended for a male audience. They thought it was going to be popular with women, and that was it. Because they put 2 kind of hunky looking guys on there, and and it's scary television that they.
I'm not gonna lie, it's what drew me to the show.
But so I liked it back before. It was like, no, everyone actually likes this, and it's really good. But I've fallen out with it. Like it didn't like necessarily get bad. Like I don't want to like crap on it, but it was just like, how many times like is Castiel going to come back to life? And it's just like it got to the point that I was like, I feel like we've done everything. Like you go back and you watch the first season and they kill a demon and they're all excited about it, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that killing a demon used to be a big deal. I guess like that now we like exorcise half of hell in like a weekend.
Yep, I've been one of the biggest proponents that the show needs to end. That being said, like I haven't stopped watching it yet because I'm one to where, with an asterisk on the statement, if a show gets bad enough, I'll stop it. There's been a few shows to where I hated them, but I pressed on through them, like Greek, Trent, and
Greek is so good.
no, it's not.
It is so good.
And Battlestar Galactica, which is also terrible. And
wait, the new one?
We are not friends anymore.
The new Battlestar Galactica?
Yep, it is terrible.
You are
everybody,
so wrong.
I am your new permanent host along with Trent, and Ryan in the future may be a guest host if he changes his tune.
You are so wrong. You should feel bad about your opinions.
Yeah,
it's
you know how they say that like
self-righteous, and it's not good television.
Oh my gosh.
Let me before we devolve here, I'll change into a different topic. Something that
no.
I really enjoyed Arrow, and I really like it. And so there was the big cliffhanger at the end of the season.
Oh yeah, you can talk about this.
Break. So we're gonna spoiler warning this like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the very last scene, Laurel comes back and is there in the Arrow cave, and so it's like I really liked Laurel. I was always wanting him to end up with Laurel. I didn't want him to end up with Felicity. Like she's nice, but she's not who he's supposed to be with anyways. I read comics. Like he's always supposed to be with Laurel. And so when she died, like I was there were tears. And so like seeing her back, there were so many theories about what could be happening with the time changes from Flashpoint or time changes that are happening in the Arrow series. And so like it's a really big mystery, and I'm really in the Legend series rather. I'm really excited to see what happens until I saw the trailer and they tell you exactly what happens. It's the Laurel from the other world.
Yeah, I was pretty pissed
about
it.
Like why would you put that in your own trailer? Like I get the spoilers come out when you cast things. So. I get that the spoilers come out, when we casted this person for another season. Okay, well I guess Harrison Wells is going to be in the show another season. Like I get that happens, but like in your own promotional material, why would you give away like the huge reveal? Like what is the purpose of that? Like I was so mad. Like I messaged Trent and I was like, "Don't watch the trailer," and he's like, "I already saw it." And I'm like, "Son of a!" Like I was so mad.
Yeah,
because I'm still mad.
Because we had discussed like all these kind of potential theories about like the time unraveling from like Dark going with Reverse Flash and the in the bubble ship through the portal, and like maybe
Or like
Dark's story from season 4 is unraveling because he didn't go into the future like he was supposed to.
or is Nissa, like, has Nissa come back? Is there another pit? And
Right? They
like,
found they found the other Lazarus pit, and Laurel is alive again. And like there was so many fun theories, and like we were all so excited to like find out what it was. And it's like a month before we're supposed to find out, they're like, "Here, just show a picture of her screaming with her Earth 2 powers." And we're
well,
like, "Oh."
and then like the little clip is her screaming, and they're like, "This isn't our Laurel," and she's like, "I was wondering how long it would take you all to figure that out," and it's like, well, apparently like 3 weeks before the show airs because you told us.
Right? Yeah, that was pretty pissed.
It's almost like Trent the other day when they released a trailer for the second half of the Rebels season. And I warned you in advance. I'm like, be careful. There's some big reveals in the trailer, and it's going to be everywhere. But then it was still spoiled for you.
Well, and I like last year sometime, or 2 years ago now, I unfollowed everything because of Episode 7, and a lot of Star Wars fan pages were posting literally every spoiler that they came across. I was like, I don't like this. Isn't the kind of news that I like. And so I started just
You're here for the
unfollowing
clicks,
everything I could
man.
think of.
Clicks.
And apparently I forgot one or missed one somehow because it popped up there on my Facebook page, and I'm like, oh. And then so maybe I was like, oh, it's a sponsored post. Like this is Facebook's fault. I can blame Facebook for this. But no,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
yeah. But I mean,
So, like, in the vein of spoilers, though,
as spoilers go, that wasn't as big of one that could have been.
I don't
in the
want to
vein of spoilers,
sorry, Ross. I don't want to pre-spoiler anything for you, Trent, but it's a much bigger deal than you probably think,
Probably, but
based on what's going on in the show right now.
we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
So what were we gonna say, Ross?
I was just saying, in the vein of spoilers, Princess Leia is not going to play as big of a role going forward in these Star Wars movies, unfortunately. And there's been a lot of talk over what that means because apparently she was supposed to have an actually pretty large role in Episode 9. Like she was supposed to be kind of the feature character for 9 from some of the stuff I've read.
Or at least have a big moment with Kylo. I've read.
Yeah, she was supposed to feature like a very significant role, more so than she did in the past movie.
Yeah.
And so I guess I had seen that the head wizards or whatever they call themselves of the Star Wars universe had gotten together and were reshaping the future.
The Grand Poobahs.
Yeah.
As unfortunate as Carrie's passing is, just on a personal level, and because she's a wonderful human being, and she'll be sorely be missed. But at this point, we can't help but wonder to ourselves, what is going to happen with these movies now, and even more, like what was going to happen. What was the potential stories that we are now going to miss because of her unfortunate passing?
Yeah,
or
I
are
really
we
want to
still going
know.
to see it with some CGI?
I don't think they're gonna go that route for something that big.
I think both. I think Episode 8 will have a little bit of CGI Carrie, to either give her character a proper send off or have her be killed off in Episode 8.
Yeah, because the official filming for 8 had actually wrapped, hadn't it? Prior to the
Yeah, they'll probably have to do some reshoots. Although they said that from this article that the director of Episode 9 was brought in as part of this, like, kind of meeting of the Grand Poobahs. So I wonder if they're really reshaping the script that's got to be already in writing for Episode 9. Or are they? So okay, let me ask you guys this: rank from best to worst the following. They kill her off, they recast her, and they CGI her.
Recast would definitely be the worst. Carrie Fisher is Princess Leia. That will never, ever change for me. And I think for many, many of the audiences. So recasting would be a horrible decision. I think 2 for episode. My second one would be full CGI. I think it worked with her in Rogue One because again, it was like 3 seconds long, and Tarkin already had like a lot of stiff movements, and the Death Star was a lot darker, so they can kind of get away with some of that more, even if some people still thought it wasn't great, But
yeah,
I also think it would be, I don't want to say distasteful because Peter Cushing has been dead for 23 years. at this point. And so his death is kind of long past, and his family gave the okay for them to use his image in
Yeah.
Rogue One, but the wound is way too fresh right now to do a full CG Leia in Episode 9. I don't think the family would be okay with that at this point. Maybe they would be, but I don't even think that Lucasfilm will even ask due to respect to the family and the recent passing of Carrie.
I gotta wonder legally who owns her estate now. Is it her daughter, or would it be like her brother?
Well, Lucas actually owns her image and did even before she passed. He has the legal rights to her image, so he could actually use her image any way he wanted without her estate's consent, because she actually signed over her image to him back in the old Star Wars days.
Huh?
And
Because I heard that she was asked permission for this last one for Rogue
Well,
One.
but out of respect, I'd imagine, but not necessarily out of legal necessity.
Really?
I'm sure if that is the case, they still wouldn't do it without the family's blessing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I
probably.
mean that's a great way to have your movie tank, is have Carrie Fisher's daughter out there like trashing it before it comes out.
Yeah, that would. Disney and Lucasfilm are smarter than that.
So
Disney's smarter than that.
Lucasfilm is smarter than that.
I'm looking to what they did for the last Fast
Me
and
since I don't
Furious
think
movie.
so.
Kathleen Kennedy is smarter than that. She was not around for the prequel.
Well, that's true. Lucasfilm now is smarter than that,
yes.
I guess.
Because we all know Paul Walker died in the middle of filming, and so they used his brother in some CGI. But if you guys have seen the movie, they did a good send off to the character that was both respectful to the character and to Paul Walker.
I cried at that one as well.
That CGI looked really good. Like you could still tell, but I think they did better in that movie than they did in some of the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it also helped there because they were like mapping it onto his brother's faces, and so there was a lot less mapping necessarily to be done because it was a very familiar face.
So I would imagine that they're either going to give Leia a happy ending somehow in Episode 8, or have her die off screen, so to speak. I don't think they'll show Kylo Ren killing her or anything to that effect. Because again, they have to.
Yeah, that would be.
They have to be very respectful for Carrie, and And so,
I think that the question of I think that CGI is the worst option of the three that you gave. Actually, I think that's even worse than recasting it. And I think the question becomes, how much more movie is Princess Leia in? If Princess Leia's story ends after 9, then ending her story early may be a better option. But it's like if you had Princess Leia's story, like if Princess Leia's gonna have grandkids running around at some point and like be like raising toddlers, like it depends on how much more Princess Leia live action stuff you have planned. I mean, recasting someone's always rough, but I mean when you have a franchise that's run on as long as Star Wars, it's a guaranteed thing. So I mean the question is like how many more of these things are Leia and Luke and Han supposed to be in? Because if the answer is more than like another 5 to 10 years, you're gonna have to recast all of them. I mean, hopefully longer, but I mean the only people that are really safe from recasting are Yoda, R2, C-3PO, and Chewie. I mean, they're Darth Vader. They've got some pretty, solid, continuity.
Well,
but
they're gonna have trouble with Darth Vader movies going forward because
they can't find someone that tall.
No, not for the voice actor. James Earl Jones. You could already tell his age in the voice of Rogue One. At least I noticed it a little bit.
Chad Vader does a good job, though. They could always just hire him. I don't know. When I play like the Force Unleashed video games, like it sounds exactly like him.
It doesn't.
It's a little different, but it's passable.
Right. I mean, yeah.
One quick interesting nerd fact for all of our nerd listeners is that other than the Force Awakens game that Carrie Fisher lent her voice to, she lent her voice to only one other video game, and that video game is Dishonored. During a classic Dishonored playthrough, like Dishonored 1, if you kill the person who announces on the PA system when you get the chance, Carrie Fisher is the PA announcer for the second half, the propaganda announcer for the second half of the game.
Huh.
Yeah, I saw that. It's really interesting.
That's fascinating.
So we'll just kind of wrap things up here. I'm just personally really interested in a documentary or kind of documentary movie thing that HBO just released. It's called Bright Lights. It stars both Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah.
It was planned to come out in March, but they moved up the release date. Just premiered this weekend on HBO. So I don't know if you can get it now on HBO on demand in some form or fashion, but I definitely plan to check that out. I think it'll be great to watch. Trent, I know you've been wanting to mention a Spock documentary here the past couple weeks, but haven't gotten a good opportunity. But I think it connects well to this Princess Leia documentary and Debbie Reynolds documentary.
Yeah. So it's called For the Love of Spock. It's on Netflix right now, and so originally it began as a documentary that Leonard Nimoy was doing with his son, and then Leonard passed away while they were making it, and so his son kind of shifted the focus to be not just about the character Spock, but also about his dad's life and their family's lives, and kind of the explosion of stardom and that was Spock and Star Trek and things like that. And I'm only about halfway through it at the moment, but it's really really good. They interview a lot of the famous Star Trek actors from the original series. They interview like a lot of the directors and writers and some members of Gene Roddenberry's family and like some of the new cast like Zachary Quinto, who plays the new Spock, and his kind of relationship with Leonard. It's some if you like Star Trek, it is really really good. I recommend
It is
to everyone.
phenomenal. I've seen it. Definitely a very good Spockumentary.
Yes.
I really liked again, like you were saying, the people they interviewed. Like they interviewed Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was talking about how like seeing like this really smart guy as a science officer is part of that is what made him want to go into science. And it's like the way that life imitates art and like kind of follows that pathway. Like it just, I mean, Spock both as as a character and the actor, like they changed so much of that landscape, and it's a really good film, and I would add to Trent's recommendation to watch it.
Well, I will definitely watch it then. I hadn't even heard of it until now, so I'll definitely put that on my queue to watch. But with that, let's go ahead and what'd you say?
I said, well, there you go.
Yeah. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up for this week. Thank you so much, Ross, for joining us as our super special guest. Thanks, Trent, for joining me as always. Remember, you could reach us on everywhere that Brief Nerdy stuff is sold. Now, you could reach us on Facebook, on Twitter, on our website, briefnerdy.com, of course on YouTube, our totally inactive subreddit right now.
Send us an email, briefnerdy@gmail.com.
So hope to hear from you. I mean, like I said, we welcome questions and comments or anything of the sort. And if we get enough of them, we'll start including them on the podcast. So thanks everybody for listening, and thanks for joining us, me again, Ross and Trent.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.